podcast. The journey goes ever on with The Long Road, brought to you by Artisan Creative. This episode, you might miss the bus because of the pilgrims. The Long Road literally get on the road this week, undertaking Steve's challenge of the activity of the month. Join us as Steve guides us deeper into the untamed realms of the Vagabond Way. Meanwhile, Kev shares thrilling updates from his ongoing Camino trek. And, not to be outdone, the Bishop explores the intriguing world of geometry, specifically pi. The Long Road podcast, where authenticity meets adventure. Join Steve Bonham, Kev Moore, and me, Chris the Bishop Leiden from the renegade Americana band The Long Road, as we defy typecasts with our very own brand of quirkiness and rebellion, shaking off the stereotypes of sex, drugs, and suffering. Get ready for ridiculous tales, offbeat musings, and downright daft moments. Tune in for laughs, tunes, and a rebellious spirit. Hop on the wild ride with the Long Road podcast from Artisan Creative. Greetings, I am Chris the Bishop Leiden. It's great to have you back with us for another slice of the Long Road life. Do forgive me if you can hear my neighbours having a party in the background and a bit of shouting. There's only so much I can do about that. So, what have you got to look forward to today in this episode? Well, if nothing else, for the hyper-local listeners, i.e. those from the ancestral heart, the ancestral home of the Long Road, i.e. Derby, England, UK, there is today a shout-out of the local public transport, the celebrated buses of Mickleover. How exciting for Mickleover to get a mention. Look out for that if you're local, or just a fan of Mickleover. Guess what I'm going to talk about right now. Say it with me. You can pre-order our limited edition 12-inch vinyl album, Hard Country. Yes, you can. Head to artisan-creative.com/shop and you'll see it there. Support independent artists and get this fabulous music into your actual hands, rather than rented temporarily from some ugly monster like Spotify or Apple. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel for all the latest music videos too. Head to thelongroadband.net to get the links. You can support all things Artisan Creative at our Patreon, patreon.com/artisancreative, starting from just £1 a month. But before our ridiculous trio chat this week, here is our track of the week, chosen by me, as we're working through all the tracks from Hard Country. Today is Ain't Gonna Fake It, which was released as a single just before Christmas last year, and it's been going down the storm all around the world, really. Huge thanks to any and all of the DJs who have played it, or the playlisters that playlisted it, and of course all of the listeners. A funny song, as we recorded it as a if we've got the time to on our project back in 2020, and then we all kind of sort of forgot about it, and then we remembered and thought, hang on, there's this great track lying around unfinished, we should really finish it. And then we remembered we also had a bunch of video footage shot for the music video. So, here it is. And do go check out that video that accompanies it. This is The Long Road with Ain't Gonna Fake It.
I thought the good things in life were played of gold, that being wealthy would stop me getting old. I saw the bright lights that blinded me to truth. I lost my parents to the recklessness of youth, but I ain't gonna fake it, ain't gonna take it anymore. Ain't gonna fake it, ain't gonna take it anymore. All my possessions, they start to weigh me down. I'm just a country boy, held prisoner by the town. It's time to simplify, shed that heavy load. Set free and sanctified, I hit the open road. And I ain't gonna fake it, ain't gonna take it anymore. No. Walk beside me as my troubles disappear. There's so much out there and there's nothing left to fear. Free from the carousel of the book of crazy lies. The scales have fallen and it's time to live my life. And I ain't gonna fake it, ain't gonna take it anymore. No, 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 I said, ain't gonna fake it, ain't gonna take it anymore. Hey, yeah. Ain't gonna fake it, ain't gonna take it anymore. No, 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 I said, ain't gonna fake it, I ain't gonna take it anymore. Ain't gonna take it anymore. Gonna take it anymore. Ain't gonna take it anymore.
Here we are, the three of us together again for another of our three-way podcast chats. We're spread all over the universe, it feels like, in a physical and spiritual way. I'm at home in Manchester. Kev is at home in Spain. Hello, Kev.
Good day. I'm just using the basic Danish.
And we've got Steve, who's currently on tour in America. Steve, hello.
Howdy.
Howdy. You've been working
He's been
on
working
that
on that,
accent
hasn't he, since last week?
haven't you?
Yes, yes.
Since last week, you suggested I sounded like a make of German automobile. I thought,
Yes. And now you're very clearly a North Carolinian saying hello.
that's very good. Yeah, and I do apologise if I'm feeling a bit low and my voice feels here. I was gigging last night and then talking as you do till 3 a.m. and
Yes.
so grumbling in a friendly way. That's me.
So today it's another new segment. We're full of new things for the podcast, aren't we? So this was one of Steve's ideas, which was I'm going to call it sort of activity of the month, but there's probably a better phrase for it, isn't there? We're setting ourselves a bit like on Radio 4 when they would set them silly challenges to do. So we've set ourselves a challenge to do, and this one was from Steve. Steve, tell us about your idea. What we
Well,
set to do this
I
month.
just like to think that bus journeys are one of the great democratizing modes of transport in the world. You know, there is no status on a bus seat. And I think it would be good for us to get on the old bus and find out how we experience that. Not that we do avoid buses, but they're less part of our lives than they used to be.
So your challenge to us was to get on a bus.
Yes.
And each three of us have got on a bus. Very good. So who wants to start? Who wants to tell us about their bus journey?
Well, I'll chip in that because I'm thinking, don't really use buses. How am I going to sort of fit that into my routine? Apart from when I'm back home in the UK, of course, Mikolova is brilliantly served by a great bus service. But
Right.
I found myself on my recent second Camino in very great need of a bus because when I'd walked to the literally the end of the world, as it were, in Finisterre, I had to get back to Santiago in pretty short order. And the bus then becomes an absolute lifeline. So I caught the bus called Mon Bus, they're called, which basically means my bus. Luckily, there was a stop handily located outside my albergue and a little office there too. And I was a bit panicky because, of course, they can only accommodate a finite amount of people. So
Yes.
wondering how many pilgrims may be heading back to Santiago.
Yeah.
So I was literally at the door at 8 o'clock to buy my ticket.
Yeah. You might miss the bus because of the pilgrims. I love that notion.
Yeah, it's yeah, isn't it? Though?
Yes, it does sound very Monty Python, doesn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah, bloody pilgrims. So I got my ticket, and it's quite a strange. It's very salutary when you in the space of 3 hours condense what I just experienced in 3 days. You know,
Yeah.
flying back on the bus, although it was quite a roundabout sort of route. I did see some things I didn't see on the other journey, but it was interesting to see what you miss when you don't take life at a slower pace, you know. But it was full, as I say, of pilgrims, me being one of them, and
one of the
the atmosphere was quite interesting on the bus. It was an atmosphere of quiet achievement.
Are you the sort of person that'll chat to random people on the bus? But did you strike up any conversations?
Yeah, I'm incredibly annoying like that. Yeah, I'm probably the person you don't. Oh my God, it's him again. You know, leave me alone. I just want to go to work. You know, that kind of.
Well, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been one of my prisoners in the old days when I was running the project in the prison. One of them said to us one day, "If you can't spot who the weirdo on the bus is, it probably means it's you." And that might well apply to you, Kev. That you may well have been the weirdo on the bus.
For clarification for the listeners, Bish doesn't actually keep prisoners in his house. It's part of his job.
Yes, that was a job years ago. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
There are now two of the most surreal lines of the entire podcast series. Not getting on a bus with the pilgrims and one of my prisoners.
Oh, it's what a strange life we lead.
So another bus journey actually that I had to take just to start the pilgrimage was from Santiago Airport to the city, and I was 5 minutes into the journey when an almighty crash happened, and he'd misjudged a sign at the side of the road, I think.
Oh dear!
Hit
the bus you were on?
The bus I was on, and it completely shattered the side corner window of the bus. He drove on regardless for 10 minutes, then stopped and motioned that we all had to get off in the rain and wait for another bus to come and pick us up. I thought, is this a terrible sign, a terrible omen for my ongoing Camino, you know? But what was quite funny was I sort of chuckled to myself that everybody's, oh God, we have got to get out in the rain. I'm thinking, in about half an hour, you're going to be walking 27 kilometres in the rain. So
yes,
getting off a bus into it's not really a problem. You know?
Yes, get used to it. You're going to be a little bit wet. Yeah. So my bus trip, relatively dull bus trip, really, but I suppose the actual trip itself, relatively consequential. But it does make you think about things, and it makes me, you know, it was a last minute decision from my point of view to get on this bus because I wanted to go to see a theatre show I live in Manchester. I wanted to see a theatre show in Leeds. I thought, well, I could drive. That's the easiest thing. It's only an hour and a bit to drive, or I could get the train, but the train will be terribly expensive, and Lord knows whether they're actually running or not. And I thought, oh well, Steve's challenge to us this month was to get on the bus, so I got on a bus. Now, one of the things, you know, it was a bus or a coach, whatever you want to call it. I mean, to me, a bus is a local thing, whereas a coach is a bit further, I suppose. So this was a coach. And I'd realised, I mean, I lived in Manchester for 20 years now. I never used the bus station in town. It absolutely blew my mind. I've been here 20 years. So I thought, well, I'm going to bloody well get on a bus from that bus station. Arriving at the bus station, didn't know the layout, didn't know how it worked or anything. It was a whole new experience for me, really. And there was a group of us gathering where we were all fairly sure this particular, what was the company called? The Flixbus was the one I called.
Flixbus, yeah.
And I think they're a sort of pan-European.
They are indeed.
Yeah. And so I never used it before, and I was a little concerned that is this thing going to turn up? Because there were 30 or 40 of us waiting, and our allotted time came and went, and sort of we're all standing there, you know, the people looking at phones and things, people getting a bit agitated, wandering off, trying to find them. Of course, there's no staff around. There's nobody around to help. And then a bus, we'd all obviously got a text message from the company saying, the bus you're going to be on today isn't going to be branded Flixbus. Don't worry, but it'll be there. And we were like, fine. And so a bus arrived. Mm-hmm. And it was a megabus, which obviously we've seen in the UK for plenty, so I'm used to megabuses. Yeah. And this megabus wasn't our bus, but obviously there was nobody around to tell us that. And bless them, the megabus staff were getting quite annoyed at people going up to saying, is this my Flixbus that isn't branded a Flixbus? No, this is the Megabus. We're pointing to his shirt saying it's
Look,
Megabus.
it says
This isn't your
Megabus,
bus.
yeah.
So he gradually got more and more annoyed at people, but all worked out. And I was starting to think, well, I've got tickets to see this theatre show on Saturday afternoon. If this bus doesn't arrive soon, I'm going to have to work out some other way. And I'd already worked out, well, I could abandon the bus, defer my activity for the podcast to another day. I could get a bus home and drive to Leeds in time. But we persevered, the group of us there waiting for not the Megabus. And lo and behold, a bright green Flixbus arrived, and it was all perfectly fine. It was only a few minutes. It was 15, 20 minutes behind schedule by that point. But he managed to catch up most of it on the way. And it was, apart from the slight delay at the start, perfectly fine journey. I had a lovely time. I purposefully kept my phone out of reach, apart from checking the approximate sort of time of arrival after we left, because I wanted to, see the streets of Manchester as we passed through the city centre. The thing I've always loved about Manchester is that within a few minutes of driving, you're in the countryside. Really,
Totally, yeah.
Within 10 minutes, you've passed through these housing estates and sort of residential bits, and then you're just in countryside. Yeah. And then we're slightly boring, straight onto the motorway from Manchester to Leeds. But it's still nice to think that within a few minutes you can get out of the city and be out there. It's a relatively benign journey, but it was literally a first for me. And Steve, what was yours? I suspect yours might be slightly more adventurous, Steve, because that's the sort of person you are.
Mine is very much a compare and contrast. So very, very early, obviously, I grew up like we all did, catching buses to school, catching buses into town to gigs, catching buses all over the place. It was either bus or bike in those days. But when I was 21, I did the ultimate, for me, bus trip, which was to catch a Greyhound bus right across America, well, from Atlanta to Los Angeles. And that has stayed in my life and haunted me and been a subject of sorts of bits of my life. And so the compare and contrast was the airport bus to the aeroplane when I came out here, which which is, I think, probably the cruelest method of transport yet, apart from, a cattle truck or something.
Cattle trucks have a lot to answer for, don't they?
Yeah,
in that respect?
It always makes me kind of smile as you're pressed into the bosom of some 6'4" Amazonian sweaty lady or something. Thinking, I'm just about to get.
You normally have to pay extra for that, Steve.
Yes. Some of the people will have paid extra for speedy boarding to get through the gate bit. And all you do is you're speedy boarding to stand up on a bus for 20 minutes whilst everyone else gets put through. And you're first on, and you get to experience all the delights of humanity joining you stood up.
As they open the door, the bus kind of sinks to its knees with that strange thing.
It does, doesn't it? I remember for a very short amount of time, they tried to section off with a bit of plastic chain, I kid you not, part of the bus for the speedy boarding passengers. And that, of course, didn't work because everybody had paid for speedy boarding. So nobody got speedy boarding.
My vote for the worst way of travelling is definitely a bus, airport bus. And my vote for the best is probably a Greyhound bus across America. There's probably no finer way of seeing this country I happen to be in at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely. The two ends of the spectrum.
How long is the bus from Atlanta to LA then?
It's a long time ago. I think it was 3 days.
3 days.
3 days. Oh, my God.
Stunning.
I remember being on a tour bus in Germany. We were touring with 2 or 3 of the bands from the 60s, the Tremolos being one of them. And there was like an announcement that the toilet, on the onboard toilet, could only really be used for number ones, So anyway, halfway through the journey, Dave Munden, rest in peace, with the drummer with the Trems, he emerged from this little cubicle that's hidden at the bottom of the stairs on the tour bus and announced it. He said, "Somebody has done a number 2." The horror on his face. And of course, we all then started to sing, "Call Me Number 1," which was their last number 1.
God, the longest I've probably been on a bus, thinking about it, was when we were going on school trips, we used to have this exchange to Germany. We'd always drive from, Derby to sort of, it's almost central Germany, I suppose, isn't it? Sort of not as far over as Berlin, but into the good middle bit of Germany. And I can't remember how long it would take, a solid day of driving, something like that. Some crazy time. Oh no! On the way out, we'd stop in Calais. That's what it was. We'd drive to get the ferry, stop in Calais for the night. So we'd have a night off there, and then drive the rest of the way. But on the way back, we'd always drive straight through. I can't imagine it was legal for the driver to drive that long, but who cares? It was just a bunch of school kids. But I remember particularly one trip back. I think I must have been in year 11. I think it was I did three of those trips, the middle one, and on the way back, we were all so exhausted from having been on tour and having a laugh for 5 days, 6 days, whatever, and then doing this trip back. There were two distinct camps of people. There were the people who were unconscious, asleep, dead to the world, just wanting to be at home, no longer to be on this bus. And there were those of us, I'm afraid this was me at that point, who had gone insane and were sat at the top front of the bus, inventing stories, giggling, singing,
communal
songs,
singing,
communal singing, blooming heck, yes. Dressing up in other people's clothing just to amuse ourselves and coming up with new characters. And this is over 25 years ago now. I remember this. Someone gave me a tartan scarf and I wrapped it around my head and I put on a fake Scottish accent and announced my name was now Shania O'Tweed or something like that, and I decided that was my persona for the next few minutes. And one of the girls, Rhiannon, who I haven't spoken to me in 20 years, but we absolutely just spent the next 10 minutes of our lives pissing ourselves laughing at just nothing, because we'd been awake for 48 hours by this point, and we were absolutely gone.
Insanity creeps in. Basically, having heard our disparate adventures there, listeners, I would suggest you all hop on a bus immediately, because who knows what adventures they hold for you.
And now a little extra treat. And so we can get through all the tracks on Hard Country before this season of the podcast expires. We're going to sneak in another track of the week right now. Sneak is quite tricky with this one, as it's a bit of an epic. This one goes down in my cinematic songs in my head. It paints such a vivid story to me. It's a co-write between Steve and Kev. This is The Ballad of Dwayne and Billy Marie, and it's one of my favourites. I mean, there's loads of my favourites, but this is one of my favourites. A real challenge to play live, but I love the mood it sets and the switches between sections. Musicologists for decades to come will study this one and wonder, well, what key is it in? Surely it has to be in a key. It can't just not be in a key. Now, I've been searching for years now, and I still don't know the answer. But I do know this is a damn fine song from the Long Road's output. Here is The Ballad of Dwayne and Billy Marie.
Side by side like lovers, counting all the stars, and the old black bear, and the creaking pine, one coyote sang. We were strumming our guitars no mark, but only this. So we gathered yarn to spin and watched the moon arising through the branches high above. And the old black bear and the creaking pine, what coyotes sang, we were strumming our guitars. How did they come here? Were they rambling just like us? Or had they run from heaven's door? Or from the gates of hell? My sweet friend simply said, a voice that's in the wilderness summoned them to keep a heartbreak's broken spell.
The Vagabond Way, taking the unbeaten path and getting lost. You can't overestimate the value of getting truly and utterly and delightfully lost. It is the inevitable seasoning to the Vagabond Way. Being lost is about not knowing where you are and not knowing where to go next, or both. Being lost is not knowing what is essential, what matters, what is expected. It is when they are not around to help. It is not knowing what a reasonable goal might be. Its presence, therefore, lurks in every aspect of our lives. This can be disturbing. Our childhood fears of wolves in the wood, sleeping dragons, or being alone in the wilderness can make being lost troubling. It brings out the vulnerable boy or girl within us, instinctively reaching up an arm to take a parent's hand. But being lost is also a problem to solve, a land to be discovered, the key to the prison cell, the place you finally meet yourself. To be afraid of getting lost is to be afraid of living. I have had the immense privilege of being remarkably lost in the Atlas Mountains, the Sahara Desert, Tsimsha Tsui in Kowloon, New Mexico, the back streets of Athens, Germany, where I accidentally ended up in Poland, and Nashville. Nobody told me there were two Nashvilles in the USA. I've also been more psychologically lost when I left university without a clue what to do with my life. When as a teacher I ran out of love for the job. When I was recruited to an organisation in which the finance director gleefully informed me that my job didn't exist and none of this had been agreed. All of which unexpectedly led me to quite wonderful adventures. As you entered the borderlands between the assumptions and expectations of the world you were in, the old world, and the potential of a place you've come to where nothing makes sense, a kind of psychological wilderness, embracing the feelings of being lost and then liberating yourself may turn out to be one of the most significant challenges of your life. I mean this literally and figuratively. Getting lost awakens you more than anything else to the situation you are in and the way you are dealing with it. That feeling of being out of your depth, disoriented and on your own. The first thing you meet when you get lost is yourself, your emotions, your abilities or lack of them, your judgments about the situation. I travel chaotically. The secrets of the competent wanderer are lost on me. Considering the farrago of misunderstood directions, impossible transport connections, and incipient disaster I bring to every endeavour, the fact that I invariably get to my destination is more often due to the kindness of strangers rather than any navigational talent. I speak, therefore, as one who knows. Choosing to be lost is not so hard. It is letting a chance rather than a map guide your way. It is about doing something which feels unfamiliar, or doing something you have perhaps always dismissed in the past as not you, or something you were not capable of, or something that other people would certainly not approve. Getting lost is about putting yourself undoubtedly and unequivocally in your discomfort zone. The great joy about getting properly lost is you never quite get home again, for the act of adapting to the challenge changes you forever. Think of your first day at school or in a new job. How lost were you? But you could not find your way back to where you came from even if you wanted to. Go on, get lost.
Hello again and welcome back to Kev's Cafe Corner. You joined me on the Camino trail in Negrera in the Spanish province of Galicia. Fine weather had been promised for the next 2 days. I'd set my alarm for 6 a.m. and awoke typically at 5:57. I'd wanted an early start because this was a longer section, my destination today being Alvaroa, well over 30 kilometers away. Most of the peregrinos were up and preparing, but the girls, Daisy and Jenna from Brazil, slept on blissfully. I was out of the door at 6:30 a.m. feeling very pleased with myself. It was still dark, but there were occasional street lights. But after about half a kilometre, the Camino path took a turn into the forest and it became pitch black. An incredibly eerie silence descended. Luckily, I found the torch app on my phone and it lit my way through the worst of it. For a short while, I was back on a road again, but then it crossed into countryside and I was once again on a trail in the dark. I came to a small collection of buildings and managed to make out the Camino shell on one of them. There were 3 possible ways leading off this place, and I picked one and walked on. It seemed perfectly Camino-like, so I felt confident I was on the right path, though I'd seen no further markings. My torchlight was less than adequate, though, and I could have missed one. I saw one turn off, but couldn't see any markings indicating that I should take it, so I pressed on. Gradually, I noticed that the path was becoming more and more overgrown in the centre, indicating it was perhaps more of a cart track than a bona fide Camino trail. The blackness was all-encompassing, the path clearly less trodden. I could hear water rushing all around me. This, in and of itself, was perfectly normal on the trail in Galicia, but in the darkness, I'd failed to see a river had burst its banks and was flowing directly across the track I was on, and I stepped into it, getting my feet wet, a big no-no when hiking. I was getting seriously concerned and silently prayed fruitlessly for daylight, knowing it was literally not yet on the horizon. In the distance, a lone street lamp fought a feeble battle against the gloom, but despite its weakness, it warmed my heart. As I drew nearer, other lights appeared in a row out of the darkness. A road! I emerged into a courtyard surrounded by a collection of farm buildings and followed the dimly lit lane that served it. After what seemed like an age, it brought me out on the main road. I accessed my sat-nav and tried to locate a route that would take me to the cafe that I'd planned to breakfast at. I began to make my way. Within a few minutes, I turned off the main road and was following an asphalt side road that wound up a steep hillside. Now I was favoured with the dawn. As I reached the crest, I looked back and saw perhaps one of the most beautiful, ethereal sunrises I'd ever had the privilege to witness. There are no wrong turns on the Camino, I thought to myself. And as if to illustrate that point, within 20 metres, I saw a Camino marker once more as the path intersected the road I was on. Joy unconfined. It's impossible to convey how you feel when you've lost your way and you find one of these. More steep climbing was my dubious reward for rediscovering the trail, and eventually the sign for the cafe I'd sought for breakfast finally came into view. I was later to discover that my detour had added an extra 10 kilometres to my journey. As I reached the sign for the cafe, I looked to my left. A long, arduous flight of stairs had to be climbed to reach it. You have to work hard for your breakfast on the Camino. Next time, breakfasts, hills, and Camino dogs.
Bread section today, I edge a little away from bread, but perhaps not too far, as I will loop pastry into my thoughts today. Today, my thoughts turn to geometry, to pie. I'm a big fan of pie. 50p to anyone out there who gets that reference. Pie. Now, contentious sometimes. How often have you been at a restaurant or a pub or somewhere and you see, steak and ale pie, or chicken and leek pie on the menu, and you think, yes, that is it, that is what I want to eat, and you order, and it comes, and it's a bit of a disappointment. Well, specifically, it's actually not a pie, it's a lidded stew. So often a dish with perfectly fine filling and a pastry lid. Even more offensive is when the lid is jauntily sat half on the dish, half off, revealing the contents but exposing the lie. This pastry was not cooked on top of this pie. Now, to me, a pie should be all round. A pastry lid and a pastry base, all round. A lovely crimp around the top edge, some decoration on the top if you can be asked, but a filling deliciously encased in pastry. Imagine if pork pies were just, lidded ham. Lidded ham and jelly. I am disappointed. Now, I hear you at the back there, the heckler, rushing forth with the exceptions to my apparent rule, and I'm going to admit it, yes, I fully accept there are many great exceptions. A lemon meringue pie, for some reason, instantly comes to mind. And of course I'd be crazy to expect a pastry base and a pastry lid on that. But I think that's perhaps that a sweet pie is a subset of pies. Some plenty, perhaps even most sweet pies I would count as needing a pastry base and sides, but not necessarily a lid. An apple pie, yes, almost certainly needs a lid. At the very least, a lattice. But a pumpkin pie, I think that a pumpkin pie, well, the filling needs to be exposed, visible, no? If I thought more, I'm sure more cases of sweet pie that fulfill and do not fulfill my lid and sides criteria exist. And that's fine. Sweet pies are their own thing. A meat-based pie, though. If you call it pie, sides and a lid, please. Ah! I hear the footsteps rushing forth yet again of my heckler. What is it now? Ah, yes. A cottage pie, or a shepherd's pie, or even, for those inclined, a Cumberland pie. Oh, my God. Are these pies? Meat pies, but no pastry in sight. Is a meat filling topped with mashed potato a pie? I mean, surely cottage and shepherd's pies are a ten a penny. Are they really a potato-topped stew? Or what about a fish pie? Fish stew with a smash topping? I'll have to admit them into their own branch of the pie kingdom, then. Pies that are potato-topped. Oh, no. Don't some people refer to pizza as pies? I'm not sure I personally stretch that far, but you do you. Aren't those deep-filled, like mega deep-filled Chicago-style pizzas, aren't they pies? Like bread, then cheese, then tomato sauce, like inches thick. I mean, it sounds delicious, but is it a pie? Sod it, why not? Pie. Okay, yeah, great. Just had a rush of memory come to me, and I really don't know what else to call this, even though it's about as far removed from my original pie rule as possible. Did you ever have this? Layers of potatoes, eggs, and bacon. Layered up. Potato, egg, bacon. Potato, egg, bacon. I mean, I think we called it a potato, egg, and bacon pie. It was very tall, though, like, very tall. Strangely delicious. Okay, is a Cornish pasty a pie? It's got pastry all around, a meat filling. An empanada? A quiche, as an example of a lidless pie? What about a crumble? Fruit filling with crumble topping? Is that some sort of pie variant? Oh, I just don't know. But ultimately, call them whatever you like. If you like them, enjoy them. Now, I'm off to enjoy a Boston cream pie right now, and to some of you, that will come as no surprise whatsoever. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you for listening, wherever in the world you are. Subscribe to the podcast, however you get your podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts, Acast, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, etc. The next episode will be out next Friday. If you fancy buying us a coffee, you can at buymeacoffee.com/thelongroadband. It's dead simple, just to drop us a few quid to support what we do. It even accepts Apple Pay and Google Pay. Super easy. All of our music and merch is on Bandcamp, where you can help support a positive ecosystem for the music industry. Download, streaming, vinyls, CDs, it's all there. thelongroadband.bandcamp.com. You can get hold of our books through the Artisan Creative website. Head to artisan-creative.com. We're on Patreon at patreon.com/artisancreative. Big thank you to our current Patreons for your ongoing support. If you'd like to support us, you'll get free digital stuff and merchandise in the post if you want it. Help us create something different, something that entertains and something that inspires others. Join us on the journey. Patreon.com/artisancreative. Thank you once again, brave adventurers, vagabonds and explorers, for joining us on The Long Road. Remember, the world isn't beige. It's authentic, it's rich, and it's real. Embrace every last bit of it. Until next time, the journey goes ever on with The Long Road. Bye for now.